Hello and welcome to the Bundesliga Show European edition, which is brought to you by Over the Bar with your hosts, myself, Rory Petre, and Nuremberg's finest, Mark Broadhurst. We are delighted to be joined by another guest on this first ever European edition of the show, a new mini-series that we're doing. We'd like to welcome Phil Bundesliga Bonney, as he's known on Twitter. Phil is a freelance Bundesliga commentator whose voice you will have heard many a time watching the Bundesliga coverage. So we're very excited to welcome Phil onto the show today. So let's bring him in.
Hi guys, how are you?
Welcome, Phil. Thank you very much for your time. Coming on the first ever edition of our European show, which obviously we'll be talking about how 6 Bundesliga teams that are involved in European competitions have been getting on up to match day 3. So we'll be getting into that in a moment's time. Just before we do, we'll be doing a little bit of our usual admin. So before we get started, please do us a favor and click the big red button to subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, that is, and to click the little bell icon in the corner, which will send you a notification so you do not miss a show. And of course, if you're listening on an audio platform, please do also subscribe so you do not miss out as well. Thank you very much. So we'll be just getting straight into it right now. So we'll be moving on to the Champions League, where we'll start. We're going to start in Group A, which obviously holds Bayern Munich amongst obviously their 3 other teams in the group. So I was going to go straight over to you, Phil, with an opening question. As obviously we're starting with Bayern Munich, who are alongside Atletico Madrid, RB Salzburg, and Lokomotiv Moscow. Firstly, Phil, would you say you're impressed with Bayern's start, and do they look like a side who are determined to go back to back in this competition?
Well, I'm gonna pull the Germany card and the Bayern fan card here. Am I impressed? No, not impressed. Do I expect them to be at the top with 9 points? Pretty much, yeah. The way they've been playing recently, can't see anybody stopping them at the moment. Just they're laying waste to absolutely everybody that comes through. Although, big problem for them is that Kimmich is out until the new year. That'll hurt them. They can ill afford to lose someone of his stature, young though he is. He's an absolutely amazing player this last season and a bit, and he's a big miss for them.
Do you think then, with regards to missing Kimmich and then potentially an issue in the squad in terms of depth, that's where the struggle obviously having to do it twice a week, and then obviously the likes of Goretzka and Tolisso are still a fine midfield duo, but do you think they're lacking with that leader in terms of Kimmich?
Oh, I wouldn't say that they were lacking, but Kimmich just brings them something extra. I think where they might have problems is the whole. I've been calling it the clash situation with David Alaba. Should I stay? Should I go? If it was up to me, I would put the money on the table and keep him at Bayern. It's one of those things that over the years, Bayern have got their own way of doing things. Everybody knows that. Tony Kroos was a big example of the either you do it our way or you go. So he went. Well, I can see it from both points of view as well. Produced by Bayern pretty much through the ranks, and they wanted to keep him as one of their players. But he looked around at the other players that were equally as important to the squad. When you watched him when he was there, he was the man that was being given the on-field commands. He was the one going to the touchline and picking up what Jupp Heynckes was saying, or whoever was the coach at the time, and then bringing that on to the pitch. And I think he looked around and said, well, do you know what? I think I'm worth as much money as everyone else is a week. I think there was a little clash of interests. It's always about the money, isn't it? And in the end, he decided that he would seek pastures new, and it will be the same for Alaba if they can't work it out. It's not as if he's going to go hungry without a job.
Quite, yes, without a doubt. And then, obviously, as you've mentioned, Phil, have you been impressed? No, but do you expect them to be top with 9? Yes, in terms of the strength of the teams in the group with them, we've seen Bayern put 4 past Atletico, who you would have thought would have been obviously their main challengers in the group. Do you expect Atletico to qualify with Bayern as a top 2, or do you think someone like RB Salzburg might be able to sneak in there?
I don't think Salzburg have got it in them. Locomotive, difficult to beat, but I think you've probably tipped it right. I think it'll be Bayern and Atletico that'll go on to the next round.
Brilliant stuff. So yeah, obviously as we're talking now, so Bayern are comfortably top of their group in Group A on obviously on 9 points, with Atletico on 4 in second, and then it's Locomotive and Salzburg in third and fourth. They're on 2 and 1 points respectively. So that obviously looks quite close. So what we'll do is, before we move on, we'll just go around the 3 of us just to say who we think are going to qualify as first and second from the group. I'll kick us off, and I'll say that Bayern will finish top of the group, and I have a slight feeling that Atletico might slip up again. So I'm going to shout out RB Salzburg to get in their second place. Mark, what do you think?
Yeah, actually, do you know what? I'm actually going to agree with you, Rory. I've not been impressed with Atletico in the games that I've seen. I think I watched the first leg of that tie between Atletico v Salzburg, and I really wasn't impressed with Atletico at all. I thought they were really lucky in that game. Like, I know they've started well in La Liga, but I've not been impressed with them so far in the Champions League. And I do think that I think Salzburg can take them in Austria. And I've got a funny feeling that Bayern will win in Atletico. So I think that might just nudge it towards a Salzburg shock qualification there, ahead of Diego Simeone's men. I've got a feeling for that one.
And then, Phil, your top 2 for this group.
Well, it's going to be Bayern, I'm fairly sure. And you're writing off Lokomotiv Moscow without much ado. I don't think that Salzburg are going to be able to produce the goods over the remaining fixtures. And I'm going to sit on the fact. There's a part of me that wants to say Lokomotiv Moscow. You know, they two draws and 1 loss to buy, because they're tough too. But I'm going to say I'm going to stick with what I said originally, and I'll go with Athletic Club.
Brilliant. So on to Group B then, and Mark's going to talk us through obviously who have Mönchengladbach in Group B. So Mark, over to you for this one.
Okay, yeah, so obviously Mönchengladbach have had an amazing run so far. I mean, I think one of the toughest groups in the competition, along with obviously Shakhtar Donetsk from Ukraine, which will probably considered to be the second weakest side after Gladbach. Then obviously 2 European giants in Real Madrid, 13-time winners actually, and obviously Inter Milan as well, who won it as recently as 2010. But I mean, obviously Gladbach 5 points from 3 games, including that amazing 6-0 win in Donetsk in the last round of fixtures. I mean, it could have been more, couldn't it, Phil? I mean, obviously they were leading 2-1 until the last minute in both of the other fixtures as well, before unfortunately they let late leads slip. Yeah, Phil, do you think that could cost them in the group, those late goals?
Well, you said it. You said it quite well. I mean, let's not forget they were 2-0 up against Real Madrid. 2-0 with not a lot to play, and my feeling is that particular turnover or draw in the end might be the one that costs them. The win against Shakhtar, excellent. Inter Milan can be wobbly, they're the good and the bad. You know, for those of you watching, anybody watching, you can see my Southampton shirt here behind me. You know, the Champions League is a funny thing that I've never experienced with my club, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed. You never know. Ralph Hasenhüttl might just bring us to glory. I'm hoping so. But that group at the moment is so on a knife edge. Another good draw for Gladbach, and that might just see them through, albeit in second place. Or the thing could explode. Donetsk could just come over the top of them, and Madrid will find a way of getting through one way or the other. They normally do.
Yeah. But what do you think they need to do, Phil, to obviously qualify? Because they've got 5 points, but obviously all of the teams are still in the race in that group. Obviously Real Madrid getting that big 3-2 win in the last game of fixtures with the late goal beating Inter. I mean, a lot of people thought they were out of the group really after the first 2 rounds, but I think that win brings them right back into it. You can never rule Real out. So obviously 5 points from 3 games. How many more points do they need to get through Gladbach, do you think?
Well, they need a lot of things to get through, because one of the other things that we haven't mentioned yet is the squad is very small at Gladbach. They've only got 26 players in the squad. I saw quite a few of their pre-season games, about 3 of their pre-season games and the warm-up games, and all of them they were without Thuram, Player, and Embolo. And without those 3, they were really poor up front. There was no teeth at all. Hannes Wolf, youngster, promising, was a little bit of a bright light in those 3 games, but without those 3, they've got no teeth, and that would be what would bother me. Should there be more injuries? Obviously, it's over a period of time, so they could lose a couple of those strikers quite easily, because they are, especially Embolo and Thuram, are very prone to getting knocks. Conversely, as I said, another couple of draws and Gladbach are through, with results going Real or to Donetsk or to Inter. A couple more draws, and I think Gladbach do it. So basically, I think they've got enough to do it. They've got enough confidence to do it. They've been playing well recently. They pipped Leverkusen recently, or nearly got. that was a game I'll never forget. It was. So they've had some tough games recently, but that's the level that they want to be at, that every club wants to be at, and those are the amazing games. Okay, Lazaro scored a worldie right at the end, but they were neck and neck all the way through, and it was almost a shame that one side had to win. Leverkusen, who we'll talk about in a while, I'm sure, they wouldn't have been upset if they'd come away with just a point off of that.
Yeah, I think obviously the next 2 games have got to be key in that group as well. Obviously, the host Shakhtar in the next round of fixtures, you've got to think that's a must-win, really, because that would take them up to 8 points, and then maybe 1 point from the last 2. I think they are capable of getting a point at home to Inter in that 5th game, really, or even beating them. And I think probably, in my opinion, 9 points will be enough in that group, because every team is taking points from each other. And I do think 9 points would be enough. Obviously, you don't want to be going away from home to Real Madrid in the last game and needing to get a point. I mean, obviously, I think if it comes to that stage, then they'll probably go out. But I think the key is they've got to aim for 4 points from these next 2 games, really.
I think you're right, Mark. I think the absolute must-win is the Shakhtar Donetsk game at home. If you can't win that one, then you've got really nothing to look forward to in the rest of Europe.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, couldn't agree more. Yeah. Okay, so let's decide who is going to get through in this group. Yeah, I'm going to go for Real Madrid to win the group, because I just think Real, they just do it, don't they? I think obviously an awful start, but I'm going to go Real, and I'm going to go for Mönchengladbach as well. I think they're going to do it. I think they'll get through. And Rory?
Yeah, I agree with that. Madrid top, Gladbach second. I think they'll beat Shakhtar and then be able to do enough. So yeah, they're my top 2.
I'm going to stay German on this one. I'm going to go Borussia Mönchengladbach to win the group, with Real Madrid in a close second.
Wow. Yeah.
Very good. Let's hope so. So moving on to the 3rd team that are involved in the Champions League, and that's in Group F with Borussia Dortmund, who now lead their group after a slow start in Lazio away. That was, of course. So this is a very tight group as it stands. So Phil, what are your expectations for the rest of the 3 games for Dortmund? Do you expect them to complete the job and top the group of what, in theory, to start with, was probably quite a good-looking group for them?
Dortmund drive me absolutely potty. They do it on a weekly basis. They are so talented, so skillful. They've got so many good players, and then Dortmund fans hate me, but I always say they're over flowery. They try and walk the ball into the net. They play for each other, but they try and set people up when they really should just have a shot at goal. And they've been punished for it several times, not just this season, but over the last few seasons. I really like their style of play. I really love the whole Dortmund vibe. One of the few grounds, when we still had spectators there, they had a tifo that reduced me to tears. And it seriously did. It was a picture of a father and his son, and the text was something like, "Just as my father with me and his father with him coming to the football." I just Niagara Falls, as they say. I love that. I'm in front of the yellow wall, and the fact we're missing so much at the moment without the fans being there. And I don't need to tell anybody, because we're all suffering the same. I don't think there's anybody out there that's going, "Oh no, I like it without fans. It helps me concentrate on whatever." The one thing I worry about with Dortmund is their inconsistency. They sometimes play like gods, and sometimes like they've never seen a ball before, and that is the thing that worries me in that group. They got a nasty shock against Lazio, and I think that they'll. But that is, for me, what happens to Dortmund sometimes. They sometimes think that just turning up is going to be enough. They've got Haaland, they've got Royce, they've got Hummels, who's having a brilliant season at the back. There is so much talent there with the youngsters, with Bellingham, with Sancho, with Reina. Fantastic skills, fantastic abilities. And then you get someone like, Jadon Sancho got an assist a couple of days ago, but his form has just dropped off the edge of a cliff in the Bundesliga. He's setting up plenty of, or set up a few goals, and it would be a worry. It is a worry for Dortmund fans. That what if they can't reproduce the kind of that brilliant, bursting, fiery Dortmund that everyone loves to see, where Haaland's running through. I mean, even in their Classico recently, that goal he scored, absolutely fantastic stuff. But then you get beaten away at Lazio.
Indeed. And would you say, Phil, that out of the remaining teams in the group, Lazio, the one team that are going to potentially push them for top spot? Don't see it coming from Zenit, say, and the other side in the group.
Nope, don't fancy those two. I think what nightmare scenario would be that Dortmund drop out to Lazio and Brugge. That would be disastrous. But again, it's Dortmund. They could. That's Dortmund are like Liverpool for me. They'll fight until the last 93rd minute and never say never, because they are capable of getting 2 goals in 2 minutes and turning the whole thing round. There's a lot of parallels there, obviously, not just Klopp, but I'm confident they'll go through, but I'm not sure whether it'll be as first or as second.
Brill. Well, so for the top 2 predictions then for this group, for me, I feel like it's fairly home and hosed. After their slow start, I'm going to back them, Borussia Dortmund, to top the group, which I feel they need to do, and then second place will be taken up by Lazio for me. So, Mark, what are you saying for this group?
Yeah, as much as it pains me to say it, because I am a Zenit St. Petersburg diehard fan actually as well. But I mean, it's really not going well in the Champions League for them these days. Yeah, so I think I'm going to go for, I think Club Brugge, maybe we've kind of slightly underestimated them, because they have had a good group so far, really. I mean, obviously they did lose to Dortmund in the last game, but still there's no shame in that. So I do think Bruges still have a chance of going through in that second spot. But yeah, I definitely think Dortmund, but I'm going to just go Lazio in second as well.
And then Phil?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you guys. In a where everything works out kind of world, I think Dortmund should be first and Lazio come in second. From a Dortmund point of view, let's hope that happens.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, so that brings us nicely onto probably what's been maybe one of the most entertaining groups in the whole tournament, to be honest, so far. I think, obviously, nobody can really disagree with that as well. Obviously, Group H with Rasenballsport Leipzig being involved with that one as well. I mean, obviously, Leipzig's campaign has been really, really up and down. I mean, it couldn't have been any more up and down, to be honest with you. You know, obviously, starting off with a comfortable win against Başakşehir, and then getting the absolutely caned at Old Trafford by Rory's Man United. Yeah, which I'm sure Rory enjoyed. It's been one of few high spots for United this season. But then, obviously, coming back with an absolutely... yeah. But obviously, finally back with an absolutely magnificent 2-1 win against the all-stars of Paris Saint-Germain. You know, I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. Making up for that devastating semi-final loss in the Champions League last year, of course, 3-0 in the semi-final then. Yeah, Phil, what do you make of this group? Because, I mean, even Istanbul Başakşehir can't be ruled out yet.
Well, you did say, and I'm going to pick you up on it, on the Paris Saint-Germain with their superstars, but they were missing a couple of superstars for that one, I think you'll find. And they did get a right smacking against Man United, which I thought was possibly a little flattering to Man United in the end. But I would say that because I'm a Southampton fan. Yeah, sorry about that, Rory. It's the one moment in my entire life. I'm 56 now. You know, this is the gulf between fans of successful clubs and fans of want to be successful clubs. You know, we had our one moment in 1976, and we had our one moment like 2 weekends back, top of the table for the first time in 22 years. This is something that fans of big clubs have no idea. And Ralph Hasenhüttl was absolutely right. I took a photo of it on my mobile phone. There we are at the top, and I can remember doing it the last time as well, when we were overnight leaders. But yeah, this group is it's more than a group of death. You can't rule out Başakşehir either. It's fascinating because of that. You know, Leipzig have still got to go to Paris Saint-Germain. Man United have still got to come to Leipzig, which isn't the easiest. You don't know as well. By the time they arrive, maybe there'll be some fans in the stadium. That part of Germany has had lower numbers, and was allowed more fans in than certain other areas at the time. I mean, obviously, this is just conjecture. We don't know where we're going to be at the end of November, but the fans might have a role to play yet. The permutations are incredible. Can you imagine Paris Saint-Germain not getting through? That would be a bomb dropped from a great height on a club that, as you say, got through to the semi-finals. And then onwards, like last time. Yeah, I don't know is the answer.
Yeah, I think that's as good as an answer as any, to be honest, because, I think I'm pretty much the same. Obviously, United absolutely flew out of the blocks in the group, winning away at Paris Saint-Germain with a really good performance as well. I think nobody thought that was possible. But then, obviously, the 5-0, and then you're just thinking, come on, United. I mean, I'm not a United fan. I'm a Wigan fan, actually, Phil. So, yeah, I think Wigan are actually like Southampton made Wigan look like I think Wigan makes Southampton look like a big club, really. Yeah.
I agree, but the Manchester United, but I'm possibly a little unfair because of my sporting rivalry with the Reds. It's yes, you're absolutely right. 2 big wins, very big wins, and then falling flat on their face away from home. Okay, it might be a bit of that Dortmund syndrome that, you know, oh, here we are in Turkey, all we've got to do is show up and stroke the ball around a little.
Yeah, and I think also, I mean, would you put it beyond this United team to lose at home or draw at home to Başakşehir as well? I think no at the moment, to be honest with you. It's like United are they're so inconsistent. It's quite scary, really, at the minute, you know. And I think they've not won many home games at all this season. In fact, have they won at home in the league? I don't think they've won in like 4 or 5 home games in the league. So, I mean, obviously, I mean, I wouldn't say, I mean, if in the past, you'd have said that was an absolute banker, United to be one of these kind of lesser European novices, really. Sure. But nowadays, you're not even 100% sure. So I think, I mean, you can't fully rule out the Turks as well at the minute. So I think it's, but yeah, I mean, a really interesting group.
They come into it knowing that they are the whipping boys of the group and they have absolutely nothing to lose. So they're going to enjoy I mean, you've got 2 massive clubs to play in Man United and Paris Saint-Germain. So they really are just going to go for it. You saw I'm sure Rory saw it way too starkly and would never want to see it again. But you saw with the relish with which they set about their game at home against Man United. These are the games you live for as when you're a fan or a player, even in that sort of level. it wouldn't surprise me if Paris lost out and Leipzig pipped them to it. I really, I mean, you're going to ask me that question in a minute about who I think is going to come in first, second, and third in this group, and I'm not sure.
Yeah. Well, you've only got a couple of seconds to answer, because I am going to drop that question on you now in a second, Phil. Yeah, but I'm actually going to make the job a bit easier by going first. Yeah. So who's going to get through Group H? I'm actually going to go. I think United will still win it, because I think they got those two big wins, and I think it's going to be, as long as they beat Başakşehir at home in that game, they'll probably just need 1 point to top that group, perhaps, if they do manage that. So yeah, I think United will win the group, actually, and I'm going to go Leipzig for second, simply because you never really, when do you ever see Neymar and Mbappe start together nowadays? Yeah, I mean, I have a good friend who's a Paris Saint-Germain fan, and he's from Paris, and he says the fans don't like Neymar and Mbappe actually anymore, because they feel they just don't really, they're not committed to the club. So yeah, as a result, after hearing that, I thought, do you know what? I think they could just go home early, and I think I'm going to go United top, followed by Rasenballsport Leipzig. Rory.
Yeah, well, from a Man United point of view, it has been a topsy-turvy group stage so far. Baffling performance in the last game against Başakşehir, but I do expect us to bounce back and beat them at home, which, as you've alluded to, Mark, puts us in a pretty strong position in the group, with PSG to come to us. So another point should be at least enough to qualify. So I'm going to say United top the group, with PSG coming through in second place. I think RB will very narrowly miss out, I'm afraid. That's what I reckon.
I think it's a good shout, Rory. I think there is the possibility of Leipzig not getting all the way, because I'm not saying they only know how to play one way, but they like to attack, and you saw that against Manchester United every time, and then they just got smacked back again to lose by more goals possibly. I think 3-0 would have probably been a fairer result, but then they just keep trying. Yeah, they keep trying, and I think their end position will pretty much hang on their away game at Paris. If they beat Paris Saint-Germain, they will finish second to Manchester United. I can't see Man United messing up in Leipzig, but you never know. so I'll say I think probably Man United will come out of that one top, and depending on what happens, I think whoever wins the game, Leipzig, Paris Saint-Germain against Leipzig, will be in second place. Can I say that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks a lot for that. Yeah. Okay, so let's progress now onto the Europa League, because obviously we also have two German sides involved with the Europa League as well. So yeah, Rory, do you want to start us off there?
Yeah, sure. So we've got, as Mark mentioned, two representatives from Germany in the Europa League, a jam-packed Europa League. Seems to be more and more teams in it each and every year. So in Group C, we've got Bayer Leverkusen, who are kind of sitting in a rather interesting looking group at the moment, as it stands. They sit joint top, having dismantled Nice 6-2, Patrick Vieira's Nice, which was a superb game, where it was a game where they've been following a little bit of pressure, and there had been a bit of a demand for them to score goals, and all of a sudden 6 come along. So it seems that they're just starting to hit form at the right time. So Phil, have you kind of spotted this kind of just them starting to click into gear, and do you think this will be perfect timing in terms of helping them out of their group?
I think Leverkusen are doing brilliantly at the moment. The last game before the international break, where they pipped Gladbach to all 3 points. They've in Lucas Alario, they've got a forward now who has been given the trust of Peter Bosz to go out there and play every week, and that's exactly what he needed. It was always when Folland was there, and when Havertz was there, he wasn't getting those starts, but he's got the confidence. He realizes now how important he is for the team. The team realize how important he is, and that he can do it. I mean, he can score with his head. Well, two of the goals he scored last weekend. Weekend ago. absolutely fabulous goals, real striker's goal, got in front of the defender to nod it away, and a really nice curled ball from distance. A lot of finesse to his play. The group is one that they said they wanted to win. Edmund Tapsoba, the central defender for Leverkusen, said right at the beginning of the campaign they're setting out to win this whole thing, and certainly to come first and top of the group. And I think the way they've played so far, they've hit, as you say, Rory, they've hit form. They're playing Peter Bosz football. He wanted to play that when he was at Dortmund. It is his style. He's a very attack-minded coach. Loves to see his players going forward, and they deserve to be where they are.
Absolutely agreed. I think they are just starting to really find the net, and as you've mentioned, with someone in Ilario who now seems to have the trust of the manager, it seems to be that they're set for a really good push now up until at least certainly the end of the group stages, where I personally expect them to qualify, which leads us neatly on to where we think this group will finish up. So in my humble opinion, I'm thinking that Bayer Leverkusen will top their group. I think I haven't seen much of Nice, and certainly obviously in their game where they were hit by Leverkusen, they weren't particularly impressive. So I think the way it stands at the moment will be as is. So I expect Slavia to go through as well. So I think Leverkusen will switch positions and get that first place that they crave. So that's going to be the top two for me. Mark?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go actually Slavia to top the group, simply because I think Leverkusen, if they beat the Israeli side at home, they'll probably know that they're through, and they might play a slightly weaker side after that. And I think Slavia, obviously playing in the Czech league, it's probably not that. I've never really watched any Czech games, to be honest with you, but I wouldn't imagine it's the strongest of leagues compared to obviously the Bundesliga. And I have seen quite a bit of Slavia Prague last season. I mean, I know they lost a few players. I think West Ham signed a couple of their players, but they are a decent side, actually, Slavia Prague. I'm quite impressed with them when I've seen them. And I actually fancy them to top the group, simply because I think in the last game, when Slavia travelled to Leverkusen, I expect to see a heavily weakened Leverkusen side. So I'm going to go Slavia to top it ahead of Leverkusen in second.
I'll disagree. I think Leverkusen will top it, and I don't think they'll put out a weakened side. They'll rotate in a few positions, but I don't think Peter Bosz. They do tend to be there and go for it every time. So I'm going to go Slavia Prague in second, Leverkusen first. There's a slight chance that Nice might swap places with Hapoel Beersheva, but as far as that group is concerned, I think the first two are going to be the first two.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Yeah. Okay, and on to the final Bundesliga team that have been competing in the European scene this year, obviously, is Hoffenheim. Yeah. Now, obviously, we've talked a lot about Hoffenheim's struggles in recent weeks in the Bundesliga. We've been less than impressed with their performances. But, I mean, in the Europa League, it's been the opposite, really. I mean, obviously, 3 heavy wins, really. Yeah, I mean, obviously, they beat the Serbian champions, Red Star Belgrade. That was kind of the big win, really. I think when they won that one, they kind of knew they were going to go through the group, really. And then, obviously, they beat Ghent away from home. That was a really impressive performance as well, a 4-1 win away from home with 33 shots. And then, obviously, I mean, a hammering of Slovan Liberec. I mean, they're minnows, really, let's be honest with you. They're one of those kind of sides that kind of slip through the net and qualify occasionally for these competitions. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, overall, it's been a really, really comfortable group. But I think you've also got to question the strength of this group a little bit, I guess. I mean, obviously, some of these Europa League groups can be a little bit weak in the early stage, and I think this is one of them. Yeah. Phil, do you agree that it's a bit of a weak group, that one?
I was about to say that next time Southampton get into the Europa League, that's the group I want them to be in. Because with all due respect to all of those sides in there, Hoffenheim have basically are in the position that aside from the Bundesliga should be in against that opposition. With all respect, Red Star Belgrade, of course, are a name to be conjured with as well. I do think that Hoffenheim have done the job that they set out to do, but it is against, as you quite rightly point out, there's not even a Nice or a side like that in there, or even a Feyenoord, or that can really give them a bumpy ride. I think they've done adequately and done well against the sides put out in front of them. But yeah, Hoffenheim will have more problems in the Bundesliga this season than they've having it in this group.
And do you think Hoffenheim can challenge to win the Europa League? Because obviously, I mean, Dietmar Hopp, he's going to want that first big piece of silverware. And I think perhaps the Europa League could present a decent opportunity. Yeah. Do you think, Phil, do you think they could challenge to get that first big piece of silverware?
No.
Yeah.
I don't think they've got the squad. I don't think they've got the necessary talent to pick some of the other big sides in there.
Yeah.
For instance, if it came down to Leverkusen, Hoffenheim, I would put my money on Leverkusen.
Yeah.
So I think they'll get there.
Yeah. I think the Europa League often changes in difficulty, ups about 2 notches when the third place teams from the Champions League come down. You know, I think it's like, as we said, sometimes you can get some tough groups. I think Celtic are in there with AC Milan, Lille, and Sparta Prague. That's a pretty tough group. But I think some of the groups like this Group L, I mean, it's just like, some of the sides are just not really good enough to compete at this level, are they? Let's be honest, really. So
it's because there's so many. I mean, you've got Tottenham Hotspur in there as well. I mean, Spurs, Hoffenheim are not going to give Spurs any nasty surprises.
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, I keep saying, with all due respect, you know, Hoffenheim doing what they can, and they're a young club, and Germany is really split about clubs like Leipzig and Hoffenheim. A lot of the locals, as it were, have big problems with the non-tradition clubs, as they would call them. But I think Hoffenheim have done really well and deserve their time in the Europa League, and I can see them getting through to the quarters, or even possibly at best semi-finals. But I don't see them having enough to win the whole thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more there. Yeah. Okay, so that pretty much wraps up our European coverage. Yeah, so it's I just want to kind of close by doing our usual, because obviously we do produce a lot of other media as well for you guys. So I just want to kind of go over a few points. So obviously, again, we would love you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and obviously as well follow us on our podcast. You can get our podcast on a number of different media ventures, including Spotify, iTunes, Anchor, on many different platforms as well. But also, as well as the videos, we also provide a lot of different articles and literature related to football as well. So if you're interested in a bit more of what we do here at Over the Bar, you can check out our Twitter as well, called @OverTheBarFB. I mean, you can literally find articles on just about everything related to football. I think today we published an article on West Brom. Also, we've got articles on Bradford City. I write some about international football as well, like on even the Russian Premier League. You can find some information on. So, I mean, it's just, the list is endless, basically. You know, I know Rory writes a lot about the Bundesliga too, if you're interested in more of his stuff. Also, you can visit our website, which is our main piece as well. You can find links to all of our pieces on there, www.otbfootball.net. So please read our articles, subscribe on YouTube, and follow, give us a good rating on our podcast as well. So so that was the end of our first European edition of these shows. Yeah, we will come to you again with another edition at the end of the 6th round as well, and just before the draw for the last 16 of the Champions League this year as well. And thanks a lot to Phil as well for joining us. It was really, we loved hearing your points as well. It was really good, really entertaining. Yeah, it was fantastic. We hope you can join us again on here. We're waiting for the next time you're going to be here as well.
Yeah. I'm not going anywhere fast at the moment, like everybody else in the lockdown.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. So thanks a lot, guys, again. All the best. And thanks to Rory again and Phil. And
catch you next time.